Welcome back. Let's be honest. Modern dating can drain your time and energy, and it's all too easy to get attached to a man's potential instead of paying attention to who he consistently shows you he is on a daily basis. As women, we often convince ourselves that we can change him. We spend a lot of time giving people the benefit of the doubt that we end up ignoring our own intuition just to lock down a commitment. So before we call anyone husband material, let's ask ourselves this question. Is he a man of good character, or is he just charming when he wants access to me? Because in the modern world, a man can send a good morning text every single day, react to every social media story, know all the therapy language, post Bible verses, call you beautiful, and still be emotionally unavailable, inconsistent, or disrespectful when it matters the most. And don't get me wrong, attention is flattering, especially when you have been lonely or waiting a long time. And when it feels like everyone online is getting engaged, soft launching a relationship, buying a house, having babies, or posting their God did it anniversary Instagram carousel. But here's what I want you to remember. Just because you were chosen does not mean you were chosen intentionally. Sometimes you were simply the closest option when no one else stepped forward. Being available is not always the same as being valued. Sometimes people choose what is convenient, not what is meaningful. The real question is whether they continue to choose you when they have other options. Today, we are discussing Boaz as a practical example of the kind of character worthy of our attention. A man who is consistent, communicates with respect, keeps his word, and brings peace and not confusion. Because charisma may catch your attention, but good character is what makes someone safe to build with. Before this episode ends, I want to leave you with a different question to ask when you meet someone. Not just, does he like me, but what does his pattern of behavior reveal about who he really is? Let's set the scene. Ruth is a widow, a foreigner in Bethlehem, and living in an incredibly vulnerable situation. She and her mother in law, Naomi, have very little, so Ruth goes into the fields to gather leftover grain just so they can eat. She is grieving, she is working, she is doing what she has to do to survive. And that is where Boaz notices her. Let's pause here for a moment, because being noticed is not the same as being honored. A lot of women have been noticed. You can be noticed in a DM, at church, at the gym, on a dating app, at work. Essentially, you can be noticed by a man who says all the right things and still never be treated with clarity, consistency, or care. So the question is not, did he notice me? The question is, what did he do after he noticed me? Did he honor me? Did he respect my time? Did he communicate clearly? Did he follow through? Did he make me feel emotionally safe? Or did he make me feel like I had to become a detective to understand where I stand? Because every action is data. The way he communicates, the way he responds to your boundary, the way he behaves when he is disappointed, the way he talks about his exes, the way he treats people he does not need to impress, and the way he handles your heart when there is nothing in it for him. That may be the most important data of all. If you have to ignore the hard, cold facts about his character and abandon yourself, he may not be the answer you have been praying for. Our first green flag is that kindness has receipts. The kindness of Boaz shows up even before he ever speaks to Ruth. When he arrives in the field, he blesses his workers by saying, "The Lord be with you," and they respond by saying, "The Lord bless you." If you have ever worked for a boss who enters the office with that kind of genuine warmth and respect, you know how much it sets a positive tone for the rest of your day. This single example reveals the character of Boaz long before romance ever enters the story. When Boaz learns who Ruth is and what she has been through, he does not take advantage of her vulnerability. He does not embarrass her. He does not make her prove that she deserves basic respect. He tells her to stay in his field, where she will be safer. He tells his workers not to harass her. He makes sure she has water. He invites her to eat, and he instructs his workers to leave extra grain behind so she can gather it with dignity. That is kindness with proof, not kindness as a performance. Not kindness because he wants a round of applause or expects access to her body, her emotions, or her future in return, but instead kindness with receipts. Watch how he treats people who cannot do anything for him. Anybody can be impressive when they're trying to win you over. Anybody can be generous on the first date. Anybody can send flowers after an argument. But how does he treat the restaurant server when his order is wrong? How does he speak to the customer service team? How does he act around his family? How does he speak about people who are struggling? How does he treat you when you are not being easy, agreeable, available, or entertaining? True kindness is not a tactic. It's a lifestyle. It's character. And ladies, please hear me. You do not have to accept the bare minimum. A man opening the door is nice. A man respecting your no without pouting, pulling away, or trying to negotiate, that is character. A man paying for dinner is nice. A man honoring your time, keeping his word, and communicating when plans change, that is character. A man calling you wife after 3 dates may be flattering, but a man building the discipline, emotional maturity, faithfulness, and responsibility to actually be a husband, that is what matters. The first man to give you attention is not automatically the man who deserves access to you. Our second green flag is that protection is not possession. Now, this next one is important because sometimes people confuse control with care. Boaz protected Ruth, but he did not possess Ruth. He made her safer, but he did not make her smaller. He created an environment where she could work and maintain her dignity. His generosity did not come with a hidden agenda. He did not act like his care meant she owed him access to herself. Because some men call control protection. They might say, I just worry about you. But what they really mean is, why did you not text me back in 10 minutes? They might say, I'm just trying to lead, but what they really mean is, I need to control what you wear, where you go, and who you spend time with. They might say, I don't trust your friends, when the deeper truth is that they want to isolate you from people who might notice that something is wrong. That is not love. That is not safety. And that is not Boaz behavior. A healthy man can be strong, protective, direct, and intentional, while still honoring your voice, choices, friendships, career, boundaries, and your agency to say no. So here are some questions for you. Can you be honest around him without feeling his affection will disappear? Can you disagree with him? Can you say, that hurt my feelings? Can you ask for clarity? Can you take the time and space to think before answering a question without being rushed? Can you say no without being punished through silence, guilt, anger, or emotional withdrawal? Because a healthy relationship does not require you to abandon yourself in order to keep someone. And if keeping him requires you to shrink, stay confused, over-explain, or betray your own discernment, then keeping him is too expensive. Our third green flag is that he demonstrates integrity when no one is watching. Later in the story, Ruth goes to Boaz in the middle of the night when he is alone. She's taking a big risk and putting herself in a very vulnerable position. Boaz could have used that moment to take advantage of her, but he chose to treat her with respect instead. He responds with honor, he speaks with care, and he handles the situation openly and responsibly. including dealing with a family matter that needs to be settled before he can pursue Ruth in marriage. A man's character is not proven only in public. It is proven in private conversations. It is proven when boundaries are tested. It is proven when when he could get away with being selfish but does not. And this matters in modern dating because it is easy to confuse chemistry with safety. A man can have a strong connection with you and still lack the integrity to lead a healthy relationship. He can be attractive and still be avoidant. He can claim to be spiritual and still be manipulative. He can know the language of healing and still use it to avoid accountability. He can tell you he is protecting his peace when he's actually refusing to have an adult conversation. So the right question to ask is, does he have a good character? While chemistry can be a wonderful part of a connection, shared values, trust, and character are what help a relationship truly flourish, because intensity is not intimacy. A 2-week situationship full of constant texting, future talk, and emotional oversharing is not necessarily a deep connection. Real intimacy is built over time and consists of honesty, consistency, accountability, and mutual respect. And just a friendly reminder, a man who is truly serious about you will bring clarity, consistency, and peace. He will not leave you feeling constantly confused about where you stand. Boaz was not kind in one emotional moment and then inconsistent afterward. His actions formed a pattern. He was respectful, he was generous, he was responsible, and when it was time to pursue Ruth seriously, he did not play games. He took action. He did not keep her emotionally available while he figured out what he wanted. He did not make vague promises. He did not breadcrumb her with just enough attention to keep her hopeful. He brought clarity. And that is what to look for, not perfection, but consistent patterns. You're not looking for a man who never makes mistakes or has every area of his life figured out. You're looking for a man with the maturity to own his choices and hold himself accountable for how he shows up. Does he apologize without turning it back on you? Does he communicate when something is difficult? Does he keep commitments? Does he make plans or only make excuses? Does he have the humility to grow? Does his life show some evidence of discipline and responsibility? When choosing a partner, look for consistent patterns of good character and not just potential. You cannot date who you think he could become while pretending who he is right now does not matter. You cannot build a secure future on potential. Believe the pattern, believe what your eyes have seen and your ears have heard, not because you are cynical, but because you are a wise woman. If you are listening today and someone is finally giving you attention, pause before you attach meaning to it. You do not have to confuse being wanted with being valued. You do not have to accept inconsistency because he is attractive. You do not have to accept disrespect because he occasionally says something nice. You do not have to settle because dating feels exhausting, or because you are tired of starting over, or because you are afraid there will not be another opportunity. Scarcity can make bad options look like answered prayers, but Boaz reminds us that real kindness leaves a trail. It is consistent, it is respectful, it is generous without pressure. It provides protection without control. It looks like clarity instead of confusion. It looks like integrity in private and in public. So do not settle for the first man who notices you. Instead, preserve your time and energy for the man whose character gives you evidence that he knows how to honor you over time, the man that always leaves receipts. Protect your peace, trust your discernment, and remember, you are not asking for too much when you ask for a man with good character. If this episode spoke to you, please consider sharing it with a friend who may need a reminder that she is allowed to slow down, observe, and trust her inner voice and intuition. We'll leave it there for today. Remember, you are deeply valued, and just like Ruth, every step of faith quietly builds a foundation for what comes next. See you next time.